Hello, this is Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio. This week, we're going to have a rebroadcast of one of our earlier classic podcasts. We hope you enjoy it, and thanks so much for listening. Episode number 656. Hope is more powerful than fear.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you today?
Hey, Priscilla. I am doing great, and I have a podcast today that I think is unique. It is Hope is more powerful than fear. And you probably know, I know you've seen a lot of my posts. I've been posting messages on my social media ever since the COVID virus and all of the resulting things because of that. I've been posting a lot on my social media about hope and focus when times are difficult. And as a result, I had someone give me a gift. His gift was a rather harsh critique. He said, basically, in part, what are you thinking giving people false hope with posts like this? Now, I call it a gift because it gave me an opportunity to do this podcast. I want to comment about that critique in a minute. But before I do, I want to talk about another message that I received from Daniel in Canada. He's a BNI member, and Daniel's comment was much different. Now, come back to the critique towards the end. Daniel said he appreciated my positive feedback, but he asked for help understanding what is the positive in not being able to work while being locked down at home with his 3 children needing to be homeschooled. Yeah. So, I get that. And what I liked about Daniel's comment was he appreciated the positive approach, but he was unsure how he could apply it, but he was open-minded. And I feel like I can work with that. People don't have to agree with my position, but, if they ask for how do you apply that, I get it. Well, first of all, I've talked about in the special episodes that I did, the importance of making effective use of BNI online and online or in person. There are a number of things that you could do. But here's what I said to Daniel because we were, as he said, in lockdown. I like to call it the great pause. We've all had to pause in life, but call it what you will. This was my answer to Daniel. I said to him, it sounds like you have your hands full. And I remember being at home with kids and in the summer when I would work from home one day a week. And so sometimes it was, your hands do feel full. So I said to him, I like to be positive. I'm also a realist. And the situation we're in with COVID virus, the situation we're in sucks. I said that to him. And I also said, that's the technical term. It sucks. And I get that. And I quoted to him part of the Charles Swindoll quote about attitude. And a lot of people have read that. And I'm not going to read the whole quote, but I'll excerpt from it. Swindoll said, the longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude to me is more important than facts. It's more important than the past, than education, than circumstances, than failures, than success, than what other people think or say or do. I am convinced that life is 10% what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so, he said, and so it is with you. We are all in charge of our attitudes. And I really, I read that many, many years ago, and I printed it out. It's up in my office. That printout is up in my office. I have to remind myself of it periodically, but I really believe in it. And so I continued my response to Daniel by saying that my spin on this concept is fear versus focus. So rather than get caught up in fear, I try to focus on the solutions. And I told him, I don't have the specific answers to you, but I do have the questions that you can reflect upon. And I've talked to BNI members about the kinds of things they can do online, like one-to-ones, but he was talking a lot about his children and being there with his kids. So I tried to address my question to that. So as you listen to the questions I posed to him, ask the questions of yourself that are relevant to you in your situation in terms of dealing with whatever life has handed you. How do you deal with it? And so I said to him, these are the questions. How can you deepen the relationship with your children at this time? What can you do to have fun in teaching them? When they are studying, wouldn't it be a good time for you to study or watch something motivational or do one-to-ones and your BNI members? Can you find something you've read or watched as a lesson for your children? Who can you offer moral support to during this challenging time? These are questions that only you can answer. And I think the answer to those questions helps you know how to put a positive spin on it here. The bottom line here, I told him, is that almost all of us are stuck at home. We can choose to make the most of it and come out better and stronger, or we can choose to be overcome by it. I choose better and stronger. And to do that, I choose to focus on solutions. And when I do, I almost always feel better. So back to my critic, who I shall leave nameless. I will not name him. He and I live with a completely different worldview, Priscilla. I believe a positive attitude has little to do with what happens to you. It's more about what you do with what happens to you. Am I giving people false hope? My answer to him is no, absolutely not. Hope is hearing that little voice inside you whispering about what can be when everyone around you is shouting what can't be. I believe that hope is more powerful than fear. Hope plus action leaves fear in the dust. Have hope, take action, and that's the way you deal with challenges in life. And that was my message to both parties. Priscilla, any thoughts?
Yeah, I love it. I'm definitely an optimist. So even in the worst of times, I try to figure out what could be the lesson or what could I take from this that would help me. And it's hard sometimes. I mean, especially at first, if you get a blow of some kind, it takes a while to come to terms with it. But I'm always looking for the bright side, always.
Yeah.
I do agree with you that it's more powerful than fear.
It absolutely can be. And when times are tough, people tend to live in that place of fear rather than to try and find hope. And look, I've been there. There have been times where I've been very concerned. And there have been times where I've thrown myself a pity party. I'm here to tell you, at the end of the pity party, nothing has changed and I feel just as bad. So, pity parties, I realized a long time ago, they better be short because you're not going to really accomplish anything in doing them. So that's why I really feel like you got to focus on what's potentially positive. And in one of I think it was the special podcast number 1, I talked about how when I was diagnosed with cancer, the first thing I did was come up with a list of possible positive outcomes, and that everything on that list ended up coming true. But I had to focus on what could be possible. And I think that's the key here. And that's my goal with this podcast is, there's a lot of repercussions that are still yet to be felt from the COVID virus. And I really am a believer that hope is more powerful than fear. Any last thoughts or questions, Priscilla?
No, I think that's great what you've said. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Priscilla. Then that's it for today.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Meisner. The sponsor for this podcast is Ivan's Inner Circle. Go check out the great content available at www.ivansinnercircle.com. Ivan has assembled a variety of interesting topics for you to learn about and also participate in. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.